The main UN Palestinian relief agency, UNRWA, on Monday claimed a humanitarian convoy was hit by Israeli naval gunfire. UNRWA Director of Communications Juliet Touma said it was the third time a UN convoy had been exposed to attack while delivering supplies to northern Gaza, and called on all parties in the conflict to respect international humanitarian law. The head of UNRWA is visiting 3 Gulf states this week, seeking to drum up support after key donors suspended funding following Israeli allegations that some of its staff were involved in the October 7th attack. Britain's Buckingham Palace says King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer. AP correspondent Sagar Magani reports.
The palace says the 75-year-old Charles will keep working as head of state, but suspend public duties while being treated, without saying what form of cancer he has, only that it's unrelated to his recent enlarged prostate treatment.
Concerned about him.
President Biden says he hopes to speak with the king, God willing. The palace says Charles is wholly positive about his treatment and looks forward to returning to public duty. Sagar Magani, Washington.
13 children are dying every day of severe malnutrition at a camp in Sudan's northern Darfur as a consequence of the 10-month war in their country, medical charity Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, said on Monday. At the same time, the head of the United Nations Refugee Agency warned Europe may have to deal with a new flow of Sudanese refugees if the ceasefire agreement isn't signed soon between Sudan's warring sides and relief efforts aren't strengthened. This is VOA News. Russia is preparing for the presidential vote next month, an election overshadowed by the country's full-scale invasion of Ukraine nearing its second anniversary and a crackdown on political opponents in the media. Marcus Harton narrates this report from the VOA Moscow Bureau.
Boris Nadezhdin is the hope of pacifist voters in Russia, the only electoral candidate whose platform includes a proposal for immediate peace talks with Kyiv. But his candidacy could quickly disappear. The Russian Central Election Commission says 15% of signatures among the more than 100,000 that the candidate presented to endorse his candidacy are invalid. For some independent observers, this is a political decision aimed at preventing incumbent President Vladimir Putin from having to face a pacifist. For the VOA Moscow Bureau, Marcus Harton, VOA News.
El Salvador's Nayib Bukele is savoring what appears to be a landslide presidential re-election victory, and he's railing against the press and international critics of him and the Central American country. The populist leader has declared himself a harbinger of democracy, not the case study for the 21st century autocracy that some fear. Autocracy, rather. Bukele says El Salvador hasn't known democracy until now, but he acknowledges that his vision of that ideal is distinct from the norm. Rising levels of groundwater have flooded parts of northern Libya, forcing some residents to move to other places. Reuters correspondent Angela Johnston has more.
While crews race to pump the water out, it's doing little to ease fears over erosion, infrastructure, and the future. In the city of Zliten, there's a constant fight against the rising water. This water company employee says dozens of trucks pump hundreds of thousands of gallons of water every day. There are fears buildings could start to collapse, and some residents can only watch as the water creeps in.
Reuters correspondent Angela Johnston. A storm of historic proportions has unleashed record levels of rain over parts of Los Angeles, endangering the city's large homeless population, sending mud and boulders down hillsides dotted with multi-million-dollar homes and knocking out power for more than 1 million people in California. About 1.4 million people in the Los Angeles area were under a flash flood warning Monday morning. The storm was the second one fueled by an atmospheric river to hit the state over a span of days.
Thank you for watching. Can you do me a favor? Please leave a comment in the comments section below. That would really help. Thank you, and see you again soon.